subscribe to the channel, and hit like so you don't miss any new scary stories. The Secret of the Abandoned Mine, the Legend of the Cursed. In the heart of the mountainous area of the small town of Silverton, among dense forests and winding paths, stood an old abandoned mine known as the Cursed Mine. The mine had long ceased operation, and its rusty gates and decrepit supports became symbols of a forgotten past. However, the locals avoided this place, knowing the legend associated with its dark history. The legend said that many years ago, the mine was closed due to a series of mysterious deaths of miners who seemed to have perished from an unknown evil lurking in the depths. Since then, cold nights echoed with eerie moans and cries from the mine, as if the souls of the dead were crying out for help. Three friends, Tom, Sarah, and Mike, were always curious about mystical stories and loved adventures. Hearing the legend of the mine, they decided to go there to explore this sinister place and perhaps find evidence of the ancient tales. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Sarah asked doubtfully, looking at the massive rusty gates of the mine. "Of course," Tom replied confidently. "It's just an old legend. Anyway, it will be interesting." Mike, always ready for new challenges, just nodded and walked forward, lighting the way with his flashlight. They entered the mine, surrounded by complete darkness. The narrow corridors, creaking in the wind, seemed endless, and their footsteps echoed hollowly in the void. "Look at this," Mike said, pointing to an old diary lying among the debris. Sarah picked it up and began to read aloud. It was the journal of one of the miners, describing how they started seeing strange shadows and hearing frightening sounds deep underground. Suddenly, a cold wind filled the mine, and all three felt enveloped by fear. They heard whispers, seemingly coming from all directions. "We should get out of here," Sarah whispered, but her voice was drowned out by the rising eerie hum. "Wait, what's this?" Tom asked, pointing his flashlight at a strange symbol on the wall. It was a carved mark resembling ancient runes. As soon as Tom touched the symbol, the mine shook. The walls began to crack, and dust rained down from the ceiling. The friends rushed to the exit, but the entrance was blocked. "We're trapped!" Mike shouted, trying to find another way. The darkness thickened, and within it, shadows began to form into silhouettes of miners with empty, glowing eyes. They advanced, whispering the same word, "Leave." Desperately flipping through the diary, Sarah found a page with a banishment ritual. She began to recite the ancient words aloud, her fear evident in her voice. As she spoke each word, the shadows retreated, but her strength waned. Tom and Mike supported her as she read the final verse. Suddenly, a bright light filled the mine, and the sinister figures vanished, the blockage at the entrance slowly clearing. "Let's go, before they come back," Tom shouted, and all three ran towards the exit, their hearts pounding in time with the echo of their steps. When they emerged on the surface, the mine fell silent. The sunlight felt like salvation, and the friends, breathing heavily, stood at the edge of the forest. "We're never coming back here," Mike said firmly, his head looking at the mine. "Agreed," Sarah said, closing the diary. Tom just nodded, understanding that they had experienced something that changed them forever. The legend of the cursed mine turned out to be true, and they would always remember that sometimes old stories are better left unsolved. The Haunting of Blackwood Mine. In the remote wilderness of Blackwood, a town nestled between towering pine trees and rugged hills, lay the abandoned Blackwood Mine. This mine was once the lifeblood of the town, providing jobs and prosperity. However, a tragic accident a century ago, which claimed the lives of dozens of miners, led to its closure. Since then, the mine stood silent and abandoned, becoming the center of local ghost stories and dark legends. The most chilling legend was about the ghost miners, spectral figures of the deceased miners said to wander the mine at night, seeking to avenge their untimely deaths. Few dared to approach the mine, but those who did often spoke of strange lights and eerie sounds emanating from the depths. One crisp autumn day, four friends, Alex, Rachel, Chris, and Megan, decided to test their courage and explore the Blackwood Mine. They were thrill seekers, always in search of the next adrenaline rush. Equipped with flashlights, ropes, and a sense of adventure, they made their way to the mine's entrance. As they approached the rusted gates, Megan hesitated. "Are we really doing this?" I've heard some pretty creepy stories about this place. Come on, Megan, don't chicken out now, Alex said, his voice full of bravado. It's just an old mine. What could possibly go wrong? Chris pushed open the gate, which creaked loudly in protest. They stepped into the mine, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. The air was damp and cold, and the walls seemed to close in on them as they ventured deeper. After walking for what felt like hours, they reached a large cavern. In the center was an old elevator shaft, its mechanisms long rusted and decayed. Rachel noticed a series of old, weathered drawings on the wall depicting miners and strange symbols. These look like warning signs, Rachel said, tracing a finger over the symbols. Maybe we should turn back. Or maybe they point to something valuable, Alex replied, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Come on, let's go deeper. Reluctantly, the group agreed and followed Alex. As they descended further, they heard faint whispers and the sound of metal clinking. The mine seemed to come alive with each step they took. Suddenly, their flashlights flickered and went out, plunging them into complete darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled to turn the lights back on. When the beams finally cut through the dark again, they found themselves surrounded by ghostly figures of miners, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Who are you?" Megan cried out, her voice shaking. One of the ghostly figures stepped forward. "We are the souls of those who perished here," he said, his voice echoing through the cavern. "You have disturbed our rest." "We didn't mean any harm," Chris said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We'll leave right now." The ghost shook his head. "It's too late. You must help us find peace, or you will join us." Desperation and fear gripped the friends. Rachel remembered a local legend about a ritual to appease restless spirits. She quickly shared her thoughts with the group. "We need to perform the ritual," Rachel said. "It's our only chance." They scrambled to find the necessary items: a piece of coal, an iron nail, and a drop of their blood. As they set up the ritual, the spirits grew more agitated, their whispers becoming louder and more insistent. With shaking hands, they completed the ritual, chanting the ancient words Rachel had found in an old book about local folklore. As the last word was spoken, a blinding light filled the cavern. The ghostly miners let out a collective sigh of relief before fading away into the light. The mine fell silent once more, and the friends, exhausted and terrified, made their way back to the surface. The sun was rising, casting a warm glow over the landscape. "We did it," Alex said, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and relief. "We actually did it." From that day forward, the Blackwood mine remained abandoned, but the stories of the brave friends who confronted the ghost miners became a new legend in the town of Blackwood, and the friends themselves vowed never to speak of that night again, knowing that some horrors are best left in the shadows. Dark Abyss Mine, Curse of the Depths. Deep in the forgotten forests, nestled within a network of remote woodland roads, lay the old mine, shrouded in darkness and abyss. This place carried legends of sinister forces and a deadly curse emerging from the past. No one dared to leave the safe trails and descend into its dark, locked corridors. But for those who dared, unknown horrors and loss in darkness awaited. One day, a group of daring explorers, thirsting for adventure and truth, ventured into the depths of the Abyss Mine. Among them were Mike, Jenny, Dan, and Lisa, friends united by the desire to find truth in the darkest corners of the world. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they accepted the challenge and decided to uncover the mysteries. Approaching the mouth of the mine, they felt a piercing sense of unease, but overcame their fear and entered the darkness. Immediately upon entering, the air thickened and silence became unbearable, as if the mist veiled the entrance to a nightmare. As they traversed narrow passages and empty galleries, they saw traces left by previous visitors. The sight made their hearts beat faster, but the thirst for truth was stronger. With each step deeper, they were accompanied by muted footsteps and otherworldly whispers. The place seemed to have its own breath, filling the air with horror. Suddenly, one of the flashlights flickered and went out, enveloping them in darkness. In panic, they tried to restore the light, but in vain. Then a whisper came from the darkness, cold and menacing. "You are not welcome," a voice sounded, making them shudder. "Leave before it's too late." Panic gripped the explorers, but they resolutely moved forward, seeking answers. With each step, they saw horrifying scenes on the walls. scenes of violence and death, bearing witness to the mine's grim past. Figures emerged from the darkness, speckled with dust and shadow. They were the spirits of miners seeking revenge for their unhappy fates. "This is our place," one of the spirits whispered. "Leave while you still can." They realized they were not only fighting an empty mine, but something darker and more sinister. They had to defeat the curse, or else become its victims. However, the mine began to change, as if responding to their presence. The walls cracked, the ceiling collapsed, and the air filled with smoke and dust. Fighting for their lives, they found an ancient artifact, an amulet, which, as legend said, could break the curse if used correctly. Fear and desperation awaited them, but they managed to gather and apply the amulet, dispelling the darkness around them. Freed from the shackles of the sinister curse, the group of explorers emerged into the daylight, but their hearts were filled with the indelible memory of the nightmare they had endured. They vowed never to return to those dark depths, but each of them knew that the secrets of the abandoned Shadows mine would remain with them forever, reminding them of the horrors lurking in the darkness.